On that crisp September morning, there was no sign of trouble. The Pacific Ocean lived up to its name, its surface as smooth as glass. The sun had just begun to rise, casting soft hues of pink across the sky. As usual, James Warren was on the deck of the research vessel Marine Wanderer, carefully preparing his gear, unaware that the day ahead would be anything but ordinary. His team, consisting of 5 experienced divers, was methodically checking the equipment. Sarah Chin, a marine biology specialist, was adjusting her underwater camera. Mike Peterson, a former military diver, was inspecting the air tanks. Rachel O'Neill, a marine ecologist, was calibrating instruments to measure water temperature and salinity. Thomas Rodriguez reviewed current maps on his tablet, while James checked the weather forecast once more. Perfect conditions for diving. Light wind, clear visibility, and calm seas. Captain George McPherson, a seasoned mariner who had commanded the Marine Wanderer for 15 years, sipped coffee from his favorite mug, knowing his vessel inside and out. That morning, the team conducted routine communication checks. Radios and positioning systems worked flawlessly. Sarah opened her Warren journal, ready to document sightings of sea lions, dolphins, and humpback whales. Within 15 minutes, James and Mike descended into the slightly colder than usual water. Excellent visibility reassured the entire team as their research began. Sunlight filtering through the water created a mesmerizing play of light and shadow. Their plan was to explore a small coral reef about a mile from the shore. This reef was part of their long-term project monitoring the marine ecosystem. Rachel and Thomas remained aboard, ready to assist their colleagues at a moment's notice. Sarah scanned the water with binoculars and spotted unusual movement 300 meters away. Initially mistaking it for a whale's blow, something felt off. She alerted Captain McPherson, who, with 40 years of experience, sensed trouble and steered the Marine Wanderer closer while maintaining a safe distance. Rachel grabbed a hydrophone to record underwater sounds. Moments later, they spotted a massive humpback whale behaving erratically. Jerking instead of gliding, its breathing rapid and uneven. Sarah radioed James and Mike, who halted their dive to assess the situation. Aware of the risks in approaching a distressed whale, they proceeded cautiously. Meanwhile, Rachel prepared rescue equipment on deck. Special knives for cutting ropes, high-powered underwater lights, and safety lines. Thomas contacted the Coast Guard to report the situation and request support. When James and Mike reached the whale, their hearts sank. Before them was a magnificent creature entangled in a complex web of fishing nets, ropes, and chains. A massive anchor, entangled in nets, was dragging the whale down. James carefully approached, staying within the whale's line of sight, knowing humpbacks rely on peripheral vision. Mike stayed behind, ready to assist. When their eyes met, James felt a chill. He saw not just pain, but a plea for help. The whale slightly turned its head, as if steady. James raised his hand, palm open, a gesture he used with dolphins. To his surprise, the whale remained still, moving only slightly to stay afloat. 20 minutes later, Sarah and Rachel arrived with additional equipment, systematically photographing the entanglement to assess the best way to free the animal. Thomas, remaining on the ship with the captain, coordinated the team's actions and maintained communication with the approaching Coast Guard vessel. He also started drafting a detailed report, documenting every action taken by the team. The first priority was identifying the most dangerous areas of entanglement. Sarah used a high-resolution underwater camera to document every knot and wound, focusing on areas where the ropes had cut into the whale's skin. James carefully worked on freeing the tail fin, the riskiest part of the operation, as a single blow could be fatal. Yet the whale remained remarkably still, as if understanding their intent. Meanwhile, Mike examined the anchor, figuring out how to detach the 1.5-ton weight without causing it to drop suddenly. Rachel meticulously cut the nets around the whale's pectoral fins, taking extra care where the ropes had deeply embedded into its skin. Fortunately, a Coast Guard vessel soon arrived, bringing marine mammal veterinarian Dr. Emily Parker and a rescue team to assist. They immediately deployed specialized equipment for lifting heavy objects. Dr. Parker dove into the water to assess the whale's condition. She found several deep wounds where the ropes had cut into the whale's skin. Luckily, none were life-threatening. The team quickly devised a clear plan of action. First, they needed to free the whale's head and blowhole, then work on the rest of its body, leaving the anchor for last. Each rescuer had a specific task. But the most challenging was freeing the ropes from the whale's mouth. James, the most experienced, took on this delicate job. Approaching slowly, he spoke softly through his regulator as air bubbles danced in the sunlight. The whale seemed to understand, slightly opening its mouth. Inside, thick ropes were tangled around its tongue and palate, making feeding difficult. For nearly an hour, James carefully removed the ropes while the whale remained calm, occasionally moving its tongue to assist. Each freed section brought visible relief. With the first stage complete, the team took a short break to refill air tanks and recover. On the surface, they discussed their next steps. They still needed to free most of the whale's body and deal with the anchor. The water temperature started to rise, making the work slightly more comfortable. After the break, Sarah and Rachel resumed cutting the nets around the whale's body. They used special knives with rounded tips to avoid injuring the animal. Every cut required precision and focus. Meanwhile, Mike and 2 Coast Guard rescuers secured inflatable pontoons to the anchor to control its descent once detached. An hour later, most of the nets were removed, leaving inflamed but non-critical wounds. Dr. Parker monitored the whale, noting its breathing had steadied. The most intense moment came with the anchor detachment. After an hour of preparation, the pontoons and safety lines were in place. James signaled the team, and Mike carefully cut the final ropes. Remarkably, the whale remained almost motionless, as if sensing the importance of the moment. When the last rope was cut, the anchor slowly descended, controlled by the pontoons and safety lines. The team held their breath as the massive structure gradually disappeared into the ocean depths. Once the anchor was detached, the whale's behavior changed noticeably. For the first time in hours, it could move freely. At first, the whale moved cautiously, as if learning how to swim. Gradually, its motions became more confident and fluid. The team spent the next half hour observing and documenting its recovery. The whale circled the rescuers, its movements growing freer and more natural. Its breathing had fully stabilized. Then something extraordinary happened. It gently brushed against James, a delicate, intentional gesture that felt almost surreal. The moment lasted seconds, but left a lasting impact on everyone. Afterward, the whale performed graceful figure-8 movements, slicing through the water with astonishing ease. Its fins created swirling currents, resembling underwater tornadoes. Sarah captured the breathtaking display on camera. Knowing such footage was a rare treasure, the team gradually began to distance themselves from the whale, giving it more space to explore its newfound freedom. They carefully observed as the animal tested its range of motion. Each movement became more assured and expansive. Dr. Parker conducted a final assessment from a distance. Despite its wounds and scars, the whale's overall condition was stable, with most injuries expected to heal within weeks. Then it suddenly surfaced, releasing a powerful spout of water. The spray, illuminated by the setting sun, formed a small rainbow, almost like a celebration. For the next 15 minutes, the whale performed spectacular breaches, leaping high above the water while awestruck rescuers watched. Thomas noted the unusual behavior. Most rescue whales quickly leave, but this one seemed intent on expressing gratitude. Finally, it swam slowly past the ship, giving every team member a close, unforgettable moment. In the golden light of the setting sun, its wet skin shimmered with shades of gray and blue. Rachel observed that some scars on the whale's body were old, possibly from previous encounters with fishing gear. This highlighted the importance of their work and the need for more responsible disposal of fishing equipment. By evening, the whales swam north at a steady pace, likely heading toward fish-rich feeding grounds. As the sun casts golden hues over the ocean, the team packed their equipment. James marked the rescue coordinates, and Captain McPherson logged them on his charts. On the way back to shore, the team debriefed, analyzing their approach and highlighting key strategies. They emphasized the importance of staying calm and methodical under pressure. The next morning, they gathered at their office to compile a detailed report, documenting their methods to assist future rescue efforts. James particularly highlighted the whale's remarkable calmness and willingness to accept human help. In his 20 years of working at sea, he had never encountered such a level of mutual understanding between a human and a marine giant. Mike conducted a thorough analysis of the recovered fishing gear. Analyzing the net and anchor markings, the team traced them to a fishing vessel that had sunk in a storm months earlier. A week later, a research vessel 50 miles north spotted a humpback whale with distinctive scars. It was actively feeding and interacting with others, its behavior completely normal. The rescue story quickly spread, with experts praising the team's coordination and the whale's extraordinary trust in humans. For James and his team, it was more than just a rescue. It was proof of the deep connection possible between species in critical moments. The site was added to marine rescue databases, prompting increased patrols to monitor for abandoned fishing gear. The data collected during the operation also helped refine techniques for rescuing large marine mammals. Particularly valuable were the observations of the whale's behavior during the work on its entangled mouth. This story became a vivid example of how professionalism, patience, and the right approach could lead to the successful resolution of even the most challenging situations in the ocean. Every member of the team took away something profound from the experience. Even long after the rescue, those who'd been part of the operation still recalled the whale's gaze with a deep sense of awe, a gaze that seemed to belong to a sentient being, fully aware of what was happening and capable of expressing gratitude to its rescuers.